What is going on in this video? I'm going to be going over how I added almost $71,000 in email revenue for this e-commerce brand in just 60 days. Super excited to go over it. I think there's a lot of great stuff that you'll be able to take away from it, that you'll be able to implement in your own brand and ultimately give you a great retention foundation. As you can see here, they started at around $300,000 and grew it to around 380. And then as far as top line, they were at about 738 and grew to 916. So a very, very huge jump. And this is sort of what happens when you have a proper retention system in place. You can really, really scale and grow to almost $1 million in just 60 days, $1 million in just 60 days. So super excited. And with that being said, let's get straight into it. Now getting into sort of what they were doing before. Just to preface, I think this is important and sort of it leads into why email marketing always needs to be optimized and always needs to have a strong hand on it, because on paper, this brand was doing, almost everything correctly. They had a lot of the flows in place. They had a pop-up form. They were sending campaigns 3 to 4 times a week consistently. They just didn't quite have some of the nuances that it takes and getting into the real weeds of email marketing and retention to actually add incremental revenue, which is what we were able to do. So just starting off with that, they were they had a good email marketing system, just not great. And I think it's important to start off with that, just because you could have a well-performing channel, or you could have a channel that started from scratch. These principles really do apply to both. So if, whether you're doing, 10% of revenue from email, 15%, all the way up to 40%, there's always money to be made. And that's sort of the beauty behind email marketing. Alrighty, so now getting into the fun stuff. Let's go over the first growth lever that helped this brand scale, which is the pop-up form. Oftentimes the most neglected part to email marketing. A lot of people think it doesn't have a direct impact on revenue, but oh boy, does it. Just because email marketing, a lot of it is simply a numbers game. So you want to be growing that email list every single day, every single week, every single month, because the more people you have on the list, even if you don't touch the campaigns and the flows, just out of sheer volume, you'll make more money. Because imagine sending to, instead, 10,000, you send to 15,000, 20,000, list goes on. You want to be iterating and optimizing your pop-up every single day, which can have a huge impact on the amount of revenue you bring in, which, in this brand is a great example. They were already a good retention system, but, optimizing their pop-up form was a huge lift for them. And I'll also get into some of the revenue numbers at the end of this video. But yeah, the pop-up form is a top priority for every retention system. And as you can see here, so they have around 30,000 monthly site visits. We were able to get their pop-up form from 3 to 8%. And this had a huge impact on the amount of customers they acquired every single month. So this obviously, compounds. Once you get a customer today with a strong retention system, you'll keep them for a very long time. Also a great product like everyone watching this video has. But yeah, I want to get into the actual pop-up form itself too. We weren't working with Built. We don't work with Built, but I wanted to show you what a good pop-up form looks like, just to give you an idea. So first of all, offer is everything. You want to have a very strong offer, and this will automatically improve the amount of opt-ins. So before you even touch really the pop-up form itself, I would really try to come up with a strong offer. But regardless, let's go into this, and they've got a 20% off discount for people signing up to email and SMS. And then they ask, what are you shopping for? This is really the bread and butter, is by making this a micro commit. So most pop-up forms will go straight into what's your email. Don't do that. We don't want to ask someone's email address right off the bat. We want to nurture them. We want to reduce the friction between us. It is a friendship now. We don't just want to immediately ask for their email address because they won't give it to you. So we want to ask them a very low barrier to entry question, like, what are you shopping for? For the brand we worked with, it was a bit different, had 4 answers. And it was basically just nurturing and getting more information out of them, and also zero-party data. So we were able to get more information about what the customer is actually shopping for, which is very important. in marketing, because now we can actually cater the emails a little bit better towards them. And then after someone clicks, say they're shopping for men's, and then they'd be prompted with the email address step. These absolutely kill in 2026. And if you're still just going straight to the email, I'd highly recommend just changing that now. Even if you don't ask a question, I would at least recommend adding some sort of button first. And then just some other nuances that I really liked and that we implement for our brand as well that we are working with is this is mobile. And I love this X in the top left-hand corner because most people are right-handed, which means they have to go to the top left-hand corner to actually click out. So that's just a bit of a little piece that a lot of people miss. But things like that really do change the amount of opt-in rates. Like if we did that and it changed from an 8 to a 9%. So you're just constantly iterating, trying to figure out what is working the best and what is actually performing the best. So even small changes like that can really have a huge difference, especially like say you do that with a brand that has 100,000 site visits a month or even more, that those 1% really do add up. Now that we went over the pop-up form, which was the first main part, we are going into the automations, which are the flows and segmenting. I'm not going to get too in-depth with the actual emails that were being sent themselves, but I just want to go over the overall strategy. So this brand had almost all the core flows that you could have. They had a welcome flow, cart flow, checkout flow, a post-purchase, and a win-back flow. What they're missing were a browse abandonment and a site abandonment, which are also two very important flows that you need to have because that's hitting a customer whenever they go to the site and leave, and also a customer who is a bit warmer to a purchase when they actually view a product and then they leave. We want to have both of these. We want to have all of those though. And I'll get into sort of the breakdown here. But we also expanded the flows that they already had. So a lot of their emails were not targeted. So they were going to everybody in each flow. And I'll get into what we changed, but they were maybe 2 or 3 emails long. They didn't overcome objections. So what we did is expand them to at least 4 or 5 besides the site abandoned flow and some post-purchase ones. But we wanted to make it 4 or 5 emails and we wanted to actually handle objections. So that's FAQs, that's social proof. That's why this product is going to, improve your life essentially, rather than just your basic, are you forgetting this item? Because that doesn't really work anymore. We want to actually overcome the objections of the customer. So this is, like I said, I'll get into maybe another YouTube video down the line of really the in-depth sort of strategy behind this flow system, which is just incredible. But the main part I want to point out is the split. So we want to segment in all of these emails between first-time buyers and second-time buyers. So if someone hasn't bought before, we immediately want to hit them with their welcome discount code. Price is oftentimes an objection that's at the very top of the list. When a customer is thinking about buying something, they are hesitant because it's too expensive, not on the budget, need to wait. Something like that along those lines of they don't want to purchase because they don't know if it's a product for them. So by immediately eliminating the objection of having to pay an additional $15, whatever it may be, by getting that discount, that is huge because now they're much more likely to actually buy. So in all of those emails, we want to make sure we're giving the non-buyer, the first-time buyer, their discount code, whatever that may be for your brand. We want to make sure we're splitting accordingly. Also, the messaging might be a little bit different. So for someone who hasn't bought before, they may need more social proof, or they may need more questions answered. They may need to know more about the brand itself because they don't actually trust the brand. If someone's bought before, they do trust the brand. They probably don't need to see quite as many, social proof type content around the brand itself. They might need to see more content or social proof around the specific product they're buying or the specific collection. So it does differ whether someone is just coming to your brand for the first time or if they're returning. So this is sort of the layout that we like to do here at Man Mosaic. Another few nuances that I like to go over briefly, like I said, we'll do a whole nother video on this, is in the welcome flow. So we want this triggering immediately. If you have it firing 15 minutes later, you need to fire it immediately because when someone signs up, they want their code to be sent to them right away, or else they're going to wonder where it actually was. Another quick thing is they had double opt-in in. So when someone signed up to their pop-up form, they had to confirm their subscription before actually getting the first email, which is very harmful because on average, you probably get 50% open rates on that first email, which means 50% of people who didn't see that are now lost forever. We want that to be off because if we're able to get the full 100% of people who sign up, you will have a lot more subscribers and you will make a lot more money. So definitely turn double opt-in off if you have it currently. But this is sort of the base of what we had. Welcome flow, side abandon flow, browse abandon flow, cart and checkout abandon flow, and then a post-purchase tailored to different purchase journeys. So if they have bought once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, because it is a bit, like I said, nuanced depending on where they are in that customer journey. And then a win back flow, which there's a lot of great info on that too that I'll get into with a store credit, but that will come at another time. But yeah, so that's what that looks like, and it is an absolute game changer to have the proper flows in because now we can really target specific customers and where they are at in their customer journey. Lastly, we are getting into campaigns, which was arguably the strongest sort of piece that they had prior to when we joined. They were already doing roughly 216K, and then it grew to 260, which is a very big jump for a brand that was already sending 3 to 4 times a week, but we could always improve. And a lot of this comes with testing. So I think if you could get one thing out of this growth lever of number 3 is that you need to test, because there's always money to be made. There's always incremental revenue to be made. So a lot of what we did is just going through these quick bullets to give you an idea is first we increased CTA visibility. So a lot of their emails had good content, but it was difficult for a lot of customers to actually be taken to the site and buy. A lot of times they would just potentially open the email, scroll through it, but their click-through rate wasn't as high as we would have liked it to be. So what we did is add a lot more call to actions and then added them higher up in the email. So not everyone's going to ultimately scroll through your entire email. So we want to make sure for most emails, not all, sometimes you can have a lower call to action, but you want to have a high call to action on, I'd say 80% of the emails that you send to give pretty much anybody who opens the email an option to shop. This product and these products did require a bit more education than say, some other products that are out there. So that's why I say not every email needs to have a high call to action. You might see that a lot on the internet, but you don't necessarily have to have a high call to action on every single email, depending on what you sell. It's very dependent on what you sell ultimately. So I would just take that with a grain of salt, but having a higher CTA, 90% of the time is definitely going to be helpful for your click-through rates and then also people who actually buy. Then also we tested some other things, just to run through this briefly, of broad collections. So of having a just email on a bunch of different products and actually go into product focused deep dives of why you should buy this singular product. That helped out a lot. And then we also made it a lot easier to consume. A lot of them were, very copy heavy, which is great, but not everyone's going to ultimately read quite everything. So we want to make it very digestible. And then we definitely also increased the amount of social proof and reviews we had in emails. The best way to sell your product is just by letting your customers do the talking for you. So that was a big lift as well. But the main thing I want to talk about is the send time. So send time is one of the best levers you can pull. It's very easy to set up in Klaviyo and can have some pretty huge results. So this was the difference in send time. We tested this a variety of times throughout the week, throughout multiple weeks to see that morning far outperformed afternoon. About 3K of a difference. So things like this really stack up. Imagine, not just one email, but if you're consistently sending morning time when that performs the best for your customers, that is going to have a huge impact on your brand. So, and the amount of revenue you bring in on campaigns. So, for example, this brand was sending around 4:15, I believe, which can be a good time for some brands, but for this brand, morning time was way better. So we tested this over, like I said, many days, many weeks to make sure, we could confirm that this was the right time to send at. You don't just want to send it once and then call it a day, but it had a huge impact on how much revenue is being brought in through campaigns. So definitely want to highlight that to make sure you guys are testing what time you're sending campaigns. So overall, just to go over the amount of sort of revenue that was brought in was $71,000. Total revenue grew by 177,000. So this is really what happens when you have a proper retention in place and you have a brand that is scaling. So those two going together is just a perfect match. And just looking at this is beautiful. But yeah, it was about 23% email growth, and it drove around 40% of their total monthly revenue. And then just some more numbers. Really, the things that I think you guys can take away are the pop-up lift conversion. So if you're able to get a higher performing pop-up form, then that is a huge win. If you're able to get more subscribers, that will lead to better welcome flow performance. So this is what I was talking about in the pop-up form slide. So this is like the tangible sort of value you get out of having more subscribers. So that is, what, a 8,000, 9,000 lift, give or take. And then campaign revenue went up from 216 to 260. So that is through the testing. That is through seeing what resonates with your customer base. What are they buying? What collections are they buying? Are they buying from specific products? Do they like that better? And then obviously really layering in social proof for your products. So yeah, that is this video. I'm excited to start putting out some more as well. But if you, like I said, are an e-commerce brand and you're ready to see similar results for your brand, whether you already have a good retention setup or if you're looking to build from scratch, we do it all. Start off with a free email audit for all the brands that we potentially work with or do work with. And then it's really the 60 days that you get to see growth like this. Then after that, it's really continuing to grow. Like I said, like you could have seen that brand just stay there, but you don't want to just stay flat. You want to grow incrementally month over month and have a good long-term setup for, spending on ads, SEO, new product drops. You want to have a good system in place to catch all of that, which is what email and SMS marketing does. So hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And if you'd like to book a call, then feel free to in the link below.